came to me at the intersection of Disney's newest attempt at science fiction, which I think is good because I heard we're going to be hearing some more science fiction tonight, and a Foo Fighters song. I named it after the latter because I'm not really a big fan of the former. It's called The Pretender. This theater is old. It smells stale in here, as they still do not vacuum the wine-colored carpet on the walls. Years of neglect have left them stained darker, the color of blood. My stomach turns, but I do not feel hungry. I flip the menu open and point to the combo platter. This is where it's at, I say. I used to work here. Crone looks over at me from his wife, Agnes. She goes by Aggie. You would know. Let's get to, he says. We're here for the biggest premiere of our young lives. For the first time in 30 years, the old stars are going back to war, reinforced with a slew of fresh young faces. Disney's leaving nothing to chance this time around. Mickey the merchandiser and his marketing muscles have been spitting out product for over a year, eschewing the anticipatory certificates Mattel printed and sold in '76 when they realized demand was too high. They know there's no ceiling on what they can do with this material. They have the willing participation of an entire generation. My conscientious objection to becoming a data point on Mickey's spreadsheet slipped for just a few seconds on the first preview for the new film, long enough to know that the darker of the two protagonists only knows how to do one thing. I assume old Walt would have us believe the other hero is only good for one thing too. Maybe that's just me. So what do you think it's going to be like, Aggie asks. Badass, Crone says. I've trained myself not to develop any expectations of it, I add. I'm sure that this is not the droid I'm looking for, but the training hasn't worked completely. If Alec Guinness wasn't dead, he would wave his hand and dismiss me as weak-minded. If Jeb Jones wasn't dead, I wouldn't be here. Jeremiah Edward Bigsby Jones caught a .38 shell in the neck sitting at Crone's dinner table last month at a range of no more than a couple of feet. The perpetrator was unaware that single-action revolvers shown off like long-barreled playthings are more than willing to go off half-cocked. Jeb stood up in surprise at the report of the weapon, lost consciousness from lack of blood pressure, and dropped dead for all intents and purposes. The gunman's name was Blue. I never caught his full government, which he'd stopped giving out after his first encounter with state supervision. Okay, dude, so I'm counting on you to help me understand this after, Crone says. If it gets all complicated and shit, you know? It won't be complicated, I say. It's Disney. Disney sells simplicity. I can't believe Mindy took Wiggles until Sunday, Aggie says. I haven't been wowed this long since she was born. Wiggles is Aggie's third child, almost a year now, and making noise like she's getting ready to start talking. She heard Jeb die. The blast was a great equalizer, and then it made us all cry. But that's not why Blue called the weapon his blaster. Like Han Solo, bro, that's Star Wars shit, Blue said. I informed him that Han Solo's sidearm was called a Blastech DL-44 and had been modified with an enlarged gas canister for extra punch and range. I also told him that recoilless energy weapons were already being tested by a number of national governments. His blazing eyes lit up behind a set of eyeglasses that were held together with scotch tape. Wait till I get me one of those, he said, and people best be watching out. He slumped back in his chair on the porch and I lit another cigarette. I smoked and wondered if Han would be packing the same piece 30 years later. I returned the next morning looking for Crone's mother, Joy. I'm trying with the help of my siblings to get my mom out of America, if for no other reason that she's never been before. Getting out of America changed my life. Joy volunteered as a travel partner when I told her I was trying to change my mother's life, saying she'd have the disposable income to tag along when sale at the crime season was complete. One bullet dropped its value by almost a third. I needed her phone number and to give my own mom's digits to her. Living with our mothers is one of the few things Crome and I have in common anymore. I'm looking for a new line of work. Crome chose his career when he dropped out of high school and has stuck with it, as red-blooded Americans like us are wont to do. Blue's much the same. He simply does not have a mother who will break the bank to keep her only son out of jail. Joy made her money as an abuse and addictions counselor, and she may be unretiring herself soon. I knocked on the door and the babysitter, Mindy, answered. She makes most of her money from Crone. She's a non-practicing lawyer, which is to say that she dropped out of law school. Joy's still sleeping, she said. You want to smoke? We lit on the back porch, traveling across the hole in the floorboards that had been peeled up by a hazmat team after the incident. The technicians inferred from the surroundings that carelessness was okay, leaving wide gouges in the terrazzo they exposed. Is Blue out yet? I asked. No, he's not getting out for a long time. I looked up his record. Yeah? He's been in jail at least once a year since he was 14, she said. How'd you find out? His full name, she said. What is it? You're better off not knowing. I coughed loudly and Crum appeared at the back door. "Why you gotta be waking me up, bro? I was up late last night," he says. He rubs his head before extending an open hand. I slap it and wipe what he calls guinea grease on my jeans. It's really just grease. "Doing what?" "Drugs," he said. "What you should have been doing was asking yourself how you let brew around Wiggles," Mindy said. "What?" "I looked up his record. That motherfucker was dangerous." She listed a few of his more colorful transgressions. "Man, fuck you, Mindy. Blue's family," Crum said. "He had my back, now I got his. I do all that shit when I asked him to come up with me. He's got it hard being addicted to heroin and shit. They got him out in jail when he was a kid." "You're a dumbass," she said. She waved at Wiggles, who shucked and jived in the bouncy chair in the living room behind her father. "That's just his Orange County record," she said. "Who knows what else he's got?" "You know if you got the new house yet?" I asked. "Nah, my mom hasn't told me anything," Crum said. "I don't think it's going to happen." "I don't think there's a lot of competition," I replied. "The holidays just slow everything down." "You're telling me." I told him I was dipping and slid past through the back door, back into the hole Jeb's blood made. Wiggles stared at me, mouth agape. Jeb was the only one I ever saw play with her. He would toss her up and down, convincing her of his latest fan theories when no one else would listen. I rubbed the soft down of her head. "You want to go see Star Wars tonight, dude?" I don't know why I asked. I'm trying to get a state teaching job, so hanging out with those under investigation by the state attorney's office is a big fucking no-no. Maybe I thought it was helping. If they catch a break and come home happy tonight, in 15 years, Wiggles will have good enough grades to go to college, right? She's still young enough to be trained in the ways of the light side of the force. I'm not worried about a SWAT team busting down my door tomorrow. I'm worried about being served a subpoena by a well-dressed paralegal in the middle of my new classroom next year. The legal system works to keep things nice and light for pretenders like me. The theater darkens while I'm scanning it for familiar faces. I don't want to be associated with manslaughter, drugs, and low-level crime any more than the next guy. My first high school reunion is already close enough to actively dread. The lights dim, and the Lucasfilm logo flashes silver across the screen. Jeb would appreciate the tasteful lack of previews. I'd love to see the original one, which was merchandised in black and white with weird subtitles on a Super 8 after A New Hope's initial release. It ran a step slower than the real movie, ending with the Millennium Falcon flying away and a line, "They're safe, for now." Others in the audience below us are whistling and whooping, giving voices to an anticipation that's been building across the globe for months. The theme music begins to play, and I feel my pupils dilate to take in the light of the screen. I turn to say something to my friends, but I seem to have forgotten what I've been talking about. Thank you.